House to Home, presented by RE/MAX Diamond Realty.
Hafide, and welcome to House to Home. Everybody, Liz and Gina are here as they are each and every Tuesday, educating myself and by proxy you on the matters of real estate on Guam. It's a fascinating topic, a million different angles we could go, and we are going to take a look at another angle today. Ladies, I wanted to kind of like probe a topic that we've been talking about a fair amount on this segment, because last week we were talking about the fact that, you know, property may move through probate, and, you know, like it gets handed down from grandma and grandpa to dad and mom, and then to Junior and Mary and everything. So we're talking about multi-generational steps, but how about probate, like working laterally, maybe for married couples? I mean, you know, you're not talking about, you know, like going from one generation to the next. It's like a domestic union of some sort. Like, do those tend to be problematic in their own way?
Well, when properties are deeded, so for example, there's 5 of you in the family, and Gina was just discussing that if there's 5 of you in the family and it was probated, so the court deeds the property to the 5 individual. So just bear in mind, there's differences. So if it's just one big lot, then there's undivided interest to that lot. So you're all tied together, and one cannot sell without the other's consent. So all 5 of you would have to agree. Yes. So the other way is if you own property and it was probated and your 5 children, but there were 5 individual lots. Mm-hmm. So if there are 5 individual lots, each lot could be deeded to the 5 kids. So if the 5 lots were deeded, let's say to Gina, for example, if one of the lots were deeded to her, it would be considered sole and separate property. So it's given to her because it was part of an estate and it was probated. So even though Gina's married, that property belongs to her. Her husband has no interest, and they refer to that as sole and separate property. Guam has a community property law that states if I'm selling something, then, or I own it, and, you know, if something happens to me, of course, then it would go to John. But in this particular case, it's a little different because it was deeded strictly, let's say, to Gina, for example.
Gina, this is surprising to me because so basically this applies to married couples that, I mean, you have to actually have like deeded property, or, you know, it just doesn't the fact that like you and your husband have been happily married for a very long time, if this hasn't been formally codified, it's not like, you know, it's going to be implied that he automatically inherits your property and everything like that.
Well, so we're, you know, we're trying to clarify, and we're not giving legal advice. You know, what we're trying to do
right.
is in our life experience. Yeah, this is what we've come across. And what we're trying to clarify is if I inherit property from my parents through probate, that property goes, whether I'm married or not, because typically we believe if I'm a married woman and I buy property, whether I put my husband's name on that deed or not, he automatically has ownership to that property. But if I inherited the property through probate, it's not the case. And that's really the point we're trying to relay to family members and individuals out there. When you inherit property through probate, and that was distributed to you, just because you're married doesn't mean your spouse, your husband or your wife, you're not automatically on it. So what will happen is, let's say something happens to me, by law, my husband gets half my property. You know, my heirs would be, of course, I'm a married woman, so now I'm past. My heirs would be my husband and my children. So my husband's entitled to half of that property and my children the other half. And so they would have to go through probate, and they would probate that property that I inherited through my family.
Wait, one moment there, because you said, so is it by implication your husband gets 50% and then all your kids collectively get the other 50%?
Yeah, that's
okay.
The law here. The probate law here is, you know, if I'm a legally married woman, because common law doesn't apply on Guam, right? So I have to be a married woman. What if I'm a legally married woman, but I'm separated? It still applies legally in the eyes of the law. I am married. So my family, the heirs of that estate, which would be my legal husband and my children, will go to court and petition to split up that property. But there's also, if I want to make sure that my husband's entitled to that property, I could, once I inherit the property through court, I can then property to him. So now his name is on title. It's not automatic.
And I like how you brought up the fact of common law, because like Liz, as you know, many people on Guam, live happily and productively in those kind of like arrangements. They just, for whatever reason, they just don't get legally married. The judge doesn't marry them. They don't get married in church, whatever like that, but they have a thriving household. They're just not legally married.
Right.
What kind of problems does that present?
It means you don't have legal rights. Won't have legal standing. So if you're married, you do have legal standing. But I wanted to expound on what Gina was saying. So if Gina was deeded that property, then what she could do is quit claim deed her interest to the interest of Gina and Leonard Campos. So it's and we've done that in some of our properties where one name appears, but then in order to allow both names, then you would, especially in this case, because it was probated, she could quit claim her interest in favor of her and her husband. And then the new ownership of the property will reflect Gina and her husband. Both names will appear. So, that's another way of quit claiming it and deeding it so that both names appear, especially in the probate distribution situation where it only shows one name. Okay. I again want to emphasize, we're just giving feedback based on what we've experienced with our different probate cases, right, how they've handled it. Yes. And we're not giving any legal advice whatsoever.
Absolutely understood. Okay, so now Gina, here's another common situation that tends to happen a lot on Guam is a happily married couple, for whatever reason, the marriage doesn't work, it dissolves, they get legally divorced, and then one of the parties winds up remarrying. That party was the one that was deeded property and they got it legitimately through probate. What did they do to actually then transfer the property that they had before to the new spouse? Probably a lot more paperwork, right?
Now you're asking legal questions, and like I said, we don't.
We can try to, I would love to bring in a lawyer to talk about like these things, because I mean the use cases and the situations for this kind. Oh, okay. So let me rephrase my question then. Like, now I sound like a lawyer, right? Let me rephrase, Your Honor. How much of this type of transaction do the both of you and your colleagues as realtors tend to see, where it's like marriage is taking different forms and having an effect on property?
We see a lot.
Yeah. We deal in real estate, Jay. So yes, this comes up on a daily basis.
That often?
One form of another.
Very often. Yeah. And then what you do is you want to see what the divorce decree states, because that will determine how the property is distributed based on their divorce decree.
See, I would make a terrible lawyer, because I grew up always just thinking that if once you tie the knot, you put the ring on, you say, yes, God, till death do us part, and everything like that. I just thought it means 50%, what's mine is mine, and what's yours is mine for 50%. You have educated me today that is certainly not the case in a lot of cases.
And Jason, I'm sure there's a single lady out there looking for someone with your mindset.
Not after I've just admitted how naive I am with property, or someone's going to try and take all my land. But that's a completely different discussion for a different day. Okay, so we got to run. But final thoughts on everything about what this means for maybe slowing down, like that real estate deal that you really want to close. How does it stymie the process from that deal getting done?
Well, we're not really slowing down. The reason we're bringing these issues up is to, this is about planning. Liz and I are planners, right? So this is about planning. This is about cleaning up your affairs, making sure everything is in order. If you don't do that, it's a nightmare. Imagine, Liz's scenario was there's actually 5 properties, so each person got a property. So that's clean and clear and easy. But what if you got title through probate to one large property and now 5 of you own it together and then somebody goes? I mean, it complicates things even further. And that's why we're bringing up these issues, is we want people to plan, to figure out a way to get their affairs in order so you can have peace of mind.
Just take care of it when everybody's getting along, because you certainly don't want to handle this when things are a little bit more contentious, I guess. At least we can agree on that. All right, so ladies, thank you as always. It's my favorite time of Tuesday is hanging out with you guys and talking about real estate. So thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Jason.
All right, thanks for watching KUM, everybody. We will see you next time.